Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Sports Legends of the Carolinas. I'm your host, Scott Fowler, sports columnist for the Charlotte Observer, where I've worked since 1994. And as always in this podcast, I'm traveling across the Carolinas, seeking out some of my very favorite sports legends and asking them to tell the stories behind their rise to iconic status. Now, for this episode of Sports Legends, we're back in Charlotte. It's summertime, it's hot everywhere. And so for the first time in this podcast, we have gone poolside with Olympic swimmer and two-time gold medalist Cullen Jones. With the 2024 Olympics in Paris starting on July 26th, we decided to bring on a local Olympian to preview Paris, talk about his own Olympic experiences, and also give his origin story as to how he became one of a handful of African Americans to thrive at swimming's highest level. Jones owns 2 gold medals and 2 silver medals from the Olympics, where he competed for Team USA in both 2008 in Beijing and 2012 in London. Our conversation occurred in the gorgeous Lifetime Fitness Center and pool area in South Charlotte, and we can't thank them enough for hosting us. A fun warning here too, you're going to hear the happy squeals of summer campers in the background of this interview occasionally. Now 40 years old, Cullen Jones went to NC State, still lives in Charlotte, and he's next on Sports Legends of the Carolinas. Cullen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
It's a pleasure to see you again.
Then you said one of your favorites. That I am honored because you have been doing this for a long time and you know a lot of legends. So I'm honored to be a part of it.
Well, we are so glad to have you, Cullen, and we do go back a ways. So,
we do.
I covered you in Beijing and in London and saw some of your really greatest moments, and now here we are again on the verge of Paris. Mm-hmm. And so you just came back from the U.S. Olympic trials.
U.S. Olympic trials, yes.
What were some of your biggest impressions there, and what would you tell the general public who maybe doesn't think about swimming but every 4 years, who some of the biggest stars for the U.S. are going to be this year?
Well, the first thing, Scott, I'll say is that they are going to be prepared. The fact that we had our Olympic trials in Lucas Oil, where the Colts play, 2 50-meter pools, and there were world record attendance, like 23,000 people. You were prepared for the games at that point. We have a mixed group of team when it comes to age, which I think is great. You have your veterans, but you have a very young group of swimmers that it's their first time representing Team USA. And one of the things that I think we do very well for Team USA is there's a mentorship there. The veterans are always bringing in the freshmen and kind of bringing them into the fold and teaching them what's going to be what they're in for. You know, when you can look at just by the 4x100 relay, you know, you've got Hunter Armstrong, you've got Caleb Dressel as kind of the veterans who have done this before. And then you've got Chris Giuliano and Jack Alexie as the freshmen. So like you just see the dynamic there of, you know, the young guns plus the vets. And so it's going to be a great Olympics. I don't know, Scott. My record's looking pretty in jeopardy at this point.
Explain to people who don't know, what record is that and how did it happen? When did it happen?
Yeah, so the record I'm referring to is the 2008 4x100 relay, where the French team so poignantly said they were there to crush the Americans, and I went third on that relay with Michael Phelps, Garrett Webergale, and Jason Lezak.
But Lezak is closing a little bit. Can the veteran chase him down and pull off a shocker here? Here comes Lezak! Unbelievable at the end! He's done it!
We set the world record, and it's been standing for 16 years, and so it's the longest standing record, but it looks like it's in jeopardy by these 4 guys, and records are made to be broken. I have no ill will. 20 does sound better than 16. I'm just gonna put that out there. But as long as those boys come home with a gold, I'm a happy man.
And you're going to Paris.
I'll be in Paris.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what will your role be there?
So now I work for Speedo. I've kind of come full circle. And as an athlete, there was a woman by the name of Ariana Romano who's just a massive mentor to me. And she was the person that made our experience so grand as an athlete. And that's what I really wanted to do for myself for this next generation. So I am in a seat very similar to hers, where I get to negotiate the deals, build these new athletes' brands, and kind of get more out of them than just swimming fast, but really trying to give back and help in a way that they can solidify what their brand looks like moving forward and make them their own businesses, so that, it's a scary thing when you decide to retire. You have something that they can fall back on. So I'm very honored and blessed to be able to have that job. It's fun. No day is the same, but it keeps me close to the sport, which
I'm really glad you're close to the sport, because you're a real asset to this sport. In Paris, the venue for the swimming that you would be doing, of course, is indoors.
Yes.
But the open water swim is in the Seine River,
yes,
which has been a source of some controversy because the Seine River is extremely polluted. What do you think about the whole open water swimming in this polluted river in the Seine that they're trying to clean up?
This is something that there's always something, right? There's, Beijing, it's pollution. Oh, London, it's traffic. Zika in Brazil,
right. Zika virus.
And also open water. They were worried about the water there too as well.
Right. That's
21,
right.
It's COVID.
Yeah.
So now I'm hearing pollution and traffic from
Yes,
Paris.
right.
What I will say is that the host country tends to do a really good job of kind of working on these things. So I've seen all of these different controversies that have popped up, but we're still able to have an amazing Olympics.
So, Cullen, let's talk about your origin story. You have one of the most unique in swimming, and tell us the story as to how you really got started with swimming lessons and why.
Yeah, so I believe in irony, Scott. That's I think the best way of putting it. An only child from New York, New Jersey area. There weren't a ton of pools, but my parents kind of knew that I loved being in the water because they would throw me in the tub and I'd cry if they pulled me out. I'm going to date myself. You throw me in there with Hot Wheels, He-Man, and Thundercats, and I was a happy child.
He-Man.
All right. Told you I was going to date myself.
Yeah, that was good.
Now, He-Man's rising force, Extendar.
The skull's mine. He's out of reach.
But I love the water, and so my parents took me to an amusement park, Dorney Park, and I wanted to get on the same ride that my dad was getting on. He was 6'4", that's right, 6'5", I beat him. Wanted to get on the same ride, and we sat in this inner tube. He went first, I went second, my mom went last, and so what many people do know about me, especially now, is I'm a big advocate for people learning to swim, and the large part of that reason is my origin story. I was fully supervised, my parents were there, and I was still able to go down this ride and flip upside down. Now we have all of these different things. We have watches, we have phones, we have all these things that are distracting us. We're talking about in the 90s now. I was still able to go down underwater, flip upside down, and had to be fully resuscitated to come back. My mom didn't know how to swim. My dad kind of knew how to swim. And so it was one of those things where my mom was like, we're going to go against the grain. I'm not going to tell you black people don't swim, but we're going to give you the tools to be better around the water.
And your age at that time of that accident in the water park?
Yeah, I was 5 years old. So very, very traumatic at that time. When I got out of the pool, when they resuscitated me, the first thing out of my mouth was, "Let's do it again. I'm at a water park."
You didn't even know there was anything wrong.
I didn't even know. My parents were like,
resuscitated.
This kid, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And one of the things that it really hit me when I went to a swim lesson. I went through 5 different teachers just because I just wasn't feeling comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When did swimming become your passion?
I would say swimming became my passion when I was about 8 years old. I was playing basketball because my dad wanted me to play basketball. He was a basketball player. A lot of people ask me, what's the 41? Where does that come from? It's from my dad. He was his basketball number. And swimming, we don't get jersey numbers. So I took his as when I went pro. It was in an homage to him. And I still sign everything with 41 on it. That's to him. But yeah, swimming became a passion when I was about 8 to 10. I just kept getting beat by this one kid, and I started getting just competitive, which I am. And my parents just was like, you have to go to practice. You have to eat right. You have to do all these things. And I loved the fact that swimming was hard. Basketball, I understood. I knew how to bounce. I knew how to shoot. The more I did it, the better I got. Swimming was an uphill battle for me. I always say I was getting the purple and pink ribbon. That's 6th and 7th place. The blue ribbon came when I was about 15. That was much later. And so I get parents now that I teach. They're just like, I don't know. And I always say, you never know. Just stick with it. Keep with it. You never know what can happen.
And you ended up at NC State. How did a young man from the New Jersey area end up down here as a Wolfpacker?
Yeah, so one of my friends, I grew up a Jordan fan. So UNC was like a dream school. I ended up going on an unofficial visit. Like coaches really didn't kind of know that I was there. And then I asked some questions and it wasn't a fit. And I think it was just my career would have ended at UNC. In large part because of how it would have been handled with my swimming and what was said to me at that time. And I was kind of enraged, but at the same time, I knew that a friend of mine from Jersey, Kevin Devine, he went to NC State. And he just kept hounding me. He's like, come take a visit. And so he's a year older than me. I was like, all right, fine, I'll take a visit. And I felt so welcomed. It was a family atmosphere. And not because I was the fastest 50 freestyler coming in. That's not what I was looking for. It was just, I had just lost my dad. I was looking for a family atmosphere. And I felt that when I went to NC State. And so that's what sold me.
Always exciting to bring in someone that you know is going to be an immediate impact.
Jones flourished as a member of the pack, turning his world of potential into world-class accomplishments. He left the Wolfpack with a bag full of attained goals.
You have some really cool body art, which people on the audio won't be able to see, but and you've gotten some new since I've seen you last. Yes. But some is also Olympic themed. So tell me about all of your various tattoos.
Yeah, so one of the things that, and I'm thankful that I work at a job that is okay with tattoos, but I had this thought in my head. I wanted to do an homage to 2012 and 2016. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I made 2016. 2008 and 2012. And so the first thing was the double-decker bus. And the reason why the double-decker bus, obviously synonymous with London, but also it was my son's favorite word to say as a baby. He would say double-decker bus. And,
really?
And it was just always a cute thing. So I was like, okay, that's part of it. The number on it is 41. The bus number is 41. Of course, an homage to my dad.
His name was Ronald
Jones.
And your mom is Deborah?
Deborah Jones.
Okay,
yep.
Gotcha. All right.
Scott, on it, man. Always prepared. On it. But yeah, that's the double-decker bus. And then Big Ben. And I think what's cool about Big Ben is the time is 7-11, which is actually my son's birth date.
I love it.
7-11.
Yeah.
And so on the other side, you have the Terracotta Warrior for Beijing and then the Great Wall. But you also have both of the torches for both Olympics. And then the Beijing one, hidden kind of in the handle, is the Olympic world record for the relay. So there's a lot of thought process that went into it in detail. And a really good friend of mine in Charlotte actually did it for me.
How long did that take?
It was about 5 sessions.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Grace and I are really good friends, so we were always talking the whole time, and so I was always distracted, especially on the more sensitive parts of the elbow. But yeah, it's something that I always get stopped because there's always a story, and I love telling it.
And then on your bicep, you have the original sort of rings. What else there?
The original was the rings, and then I had Beijing 08 and London 12, and it was something that we all do, and it's become, I would say after 2000, it became kind of a rite of passage when you make the team. I've heard from parents now that they're like, look, you can get a tattoo if you make the Olympics.
Yes. Yeah.
There aren't many parents. I mean, I remember Missy Franklin's mom was so against it.
Really?
She goes, if you make the team, you can get it. And I remember Missy, she turned and was like, so.
Yeah.
And she was like,
there
fine.
We go. Yeah.
But it's like a rite of passage. So that was my first, well, it wasn't my first tattoo, but it was my first tattoo for the Olympics. And so just so proud.
We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. I miss Team Elite and Swim Mac and all that. You were part of a great group here. I mean, numerous Olympians, including Ryan Lochte on the last go round. How closely do you still stay in touch with Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte?
We're extremely close. I did get to just see Michael at trials. We just don't get to see each other as much, not just because of travel schedules, but we all have kids now. And so things are just a little bit harder for us to get together. But when we do, we are cutting up. We're telling old stories. It's just fun. Lochte and I are a little bit closer just because, in proximity, it's a little bit closer. And we also train together. We still keep in good contact. I saw him as early as a couple of months ago.
Where does he live?
He's in Gainesville. He's back around UF and the University of Florida for all those. But I think it's cool to see, and especially every time we have a trials, it's a family reunion.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
It's your kids meet my kids,
yeah,
and it's wow, we're getting older.
And that's something. As time marches on.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned your family. So tell me about your family.
Yeah. So my wife Rupi and my son Avon are just the joys of my life, and so I've taken this new role at Speedo. Senior manager of sports marketing, hopefully soon to be global, and then also philanthropy. And so it keeps me on the road quite a bit. Now that he's turning 5 and loves the plane and he's really good on planes, I try to actively bring him to things. It was always my dream for him to be worldly and to it's not all about the phone. He's on the phone, don't get me wrong. He plays his games, he does his thing, but I want him to experience all of the things. That was something that my parents were really big on, and I'm really thankful for that because I know about other cultures, and no matter where I go, it's always a learning experience. I'm never oh, no, I don't want to try that. No, I want to try everything. I might not like it. It might not be for me, but I want to try everything. And so we have a saying in the house. It's you can't say ew or gross or I don't like it. It's just not for me.
Oh, there you go.
So you have to try everything. And so it's funny how many kids at 2 that were what do you want to eat? I want ramen. Okay. And he used chopsticks. Well, we put the little kid ones, but he used chopsticks at 2-3 years old.
Wow.
Because we wanted him to just understand mom is, East Indian, dad's black, and you are a mix of multiple cultures, and we want you to try it all.
You met your wife here, though, in Charlotte?
I did meet her in Charlotte. She's originally from Toronto, and me from New York. So we're from big cities, but and good Lord, Charlotte's growing fast. So
I know.
It feels like another big city.
Yeah, 14th biggest in the U.S., I think I read recently. So, yeah. What's your favorite foreign country to go to?
Yeah, I would say Italy. Anytime that we can get to Italy, I mean, the food. You just can't beat it. The history, the food, the people. It's always a lot of love whenever we go to Italy. So that's a big one. Australia as well. Some of the nicest people that I've ever witnessed and been around, except when you're training and racing against them. Apparently, I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm kidding completely. I mean, I think that rivalries are always great, but Australia is definitely one of my favorite places to travel to.
Let's circle back to the Olympics since you mentioned that. Sure. The primary competitors for the U.S. this year will be, and the great rivalries this coming Parisian Olympics. What would you think in swimming? Who's going to happen? What's the big things people should watch out for?
There's a ton of great swimmers. Zhang out of China. You've got Papavici, who's a great competitor for the 100 free, especially. Australia always comes correct with their 100 freestylers. So it's going to be, when it comes to depth, you're going to see Australia always coming pretty strong for the title. China always comes very strong for the title. But our depth is our key. If you look at Worlds last year, Australia had more golds than the U.S., which is something that has not happened.
Men's or women's or overall?
I would say overall.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we've never seen that happen. We won because of depth.
Right. We've alalways had great depth.
Correct. Yeah. But when you look at our trials, there were 2 world records. Gretchen Walsh and Reagan Smith are our stars going into that Olympics. And I'm sure that looking at Worlds last year, they probably were like, we got this in the bag, but now we've got 2 world records now, and these ladies are on fire. The guys are on fire. And again, we show up Olympic year. And so that's why I always say, don't poke the bear.
David Marsh, your longtime swim coach, I'd like you to talk a little bit about him and that unique relationship you had. And then also, he used to tell me and others that you swam your best, quote, when the lights were the brightest. You weren't necessarily the best practice guy ever, right?
Yeah.
And yet you could turn it on. That was a unique relationship. Just tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trust, that's the biggest thing that I had in David, was that whenever he would give me a look and I would know I was ready. And so, yes, I wasn't the guy who was like, okay, we're going to train for 6 months. We're going to get a solid 3 blocks of training. And I'm like, no. I was a boxer. I was a boxer mentality. Like, you give me 2 strong months, I'll make every single practice. I will do more weight, swim faster than anyone, if you just minimize the amount of effort. For me, especially as I got older, it was harder for me to keep that tempo of training. For a lot of other swimmers, it was like, okay, if we continue and never really take a break, we don't have to go as hard. I was more like, okay, give me the 3 months off, or like spotty, still keeping in shape, keeping my fitness right. And then when it came to the pool, give me like 2-3 months of just hard training. And so I think towards the tail end of my career with him, he understood that. We had a very, very strong Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan relationship. We would go at it at the same time. There was so much love and respect there. He's a dad figure to me, and I know he hates it probably when I say that, because it shows favorites. but I think I'm his longest athlete tenure. 11
really?
years.
How many years?
11 years.
Jeez, that's a lot. That's a lot.
And so, yeah, he is still schooling me from time to time. And like, I'll do a clinic and I'll be yelling at some swimmer like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And if he's walked by and was like, where'd you get that from? I'm like, stop it. I know I got it from you.
What is the state of black swimmers in the sport at the highest level, but also at the level where you're concerned with a lot of times too, grassroots? Yeah. Like, I know does this continue to be a problem in the African American community?
It's still a problem. I mean, I think we have generationally seen that over time, Black Americans have just bought into the narrative. This is something we don't do. And so I think representation, you've got Simone Manuel, you've got Shane Cassis that are now representing Team USA. And what I love about it is Shane Cassis isn't going for 100 free or 100 fly. It's not a sprint. He's going for the 2 IM. That is a versatile man right there. And so I think what's so cool about it is I've heard that even Caribbean countries are like, let's just do sprints because, Black folks are really good at sprints. No, we can be good at whatever we set our mind to. Any person can be really good at what they've set their mind to if they believe hard enough. And so I think representation is really key. To say that the last 4 Olympics has had at least one person of color on there is amazing. That is it's trending in the right direction when it comes to representation. From the grassroots perspective, USA Swimming is doing an amazing job. Speedo, we have an initiative called Swim United that I head here for the U.S., but it's a global push to try to get people to learn to swim. So, Scott, I'm busy.
Yeah,
Scott,
it sounds like
I'm trying to get more.
It sounds like you're as busy as you ever were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm more busy now, I think, than when I was training. But the whole purpose is to, shed light. We need to slow these drownings down. Accidents happen. I understand that, but those numbers drop when you're safer on the water by having swim lessons. And so, any partner, this problem's too big for just one. So I think the biggest thing that I try to do as a face that has been doing this for so long is just bringing the groups together. Why work in silos? Let's work together, try to beat this, try to get people safer around the water. save some lives.
You have 4 Olympic medals, am I remembering
I
correctly?
do, yes. Yeah.
2 silver.
2 silver, 2 gold.
2 gold.
Yes.
Where do you keep them all?
Away from my son. I was like, you know what? This gold medal has never been dropped. It's been dropped by one person, and it was my son. And the ivory on the back cracked. And I was like, Avon, I love you so much. Go to your mother. Just walk away, sir. I need a minute. But no, I keep it in the safe. We have a safe in the house now. But yeah, I was that athlete underneath the bed in the sock drawer. I did it.
Yeah, really.
I was that guy.
Yeah, yeah. Do the golds get great favoritism from you, or are you just as proud of the silvers?
It's the golds. The golds get more love for sure. The silvers look, pristine. Like there's one that's in my office that I barely touch it. It just sits there. The golds travel because I'm a big advocate for inspiring others. I learned that from Rowdy Gaines, who's a massive mentor to me. How he transitioned into working with NBC. I just picked his brain. I'm big into mentors, and if you'll listen to me long enough and will take me under your wing, I want to know, how'd you get where you got to, and like, what did it take? And so Rowdy probably sees me as the annoying little brother, but I'm always asking him questions.
Of course, he's a multiple gold medalist himself and an announcer, a long time for those who don't follow swimming real closely. Just 2 more things. One is, how clean do you think the sport of swimming is?
A doping scandal surrounding Chinese Olympic swimmers is heating up as the United States anti-doping chief on Monday demanded a probe into global regulator WADA's handling of the matter, while WADA itself threatened legal action over accusations of a potential cover-up.
There's been some brouhaha about other countries, not ours, but others that have allowed athletes to keep going despite positive tests, etc.
I think it's sad. I just know from personal experiences, I've been on vacation where USADA, they showed up, knocked on my door on vacation because I had to tell my whereabouts of where I was.
Oh, shoot. That's the drug agency, of course.
Yes, the drug agency, for all those that don't know. And not to be vulgar, be in the cup time. Like, you just had to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that if I can be on vacation and still get tested, because the thought process is we want a fair, even sport, I think that should be everywhere. I don't think it's fair. If this is happening, what have you, I know that when it comes to our governing bodies, they are doing as best as they can to try to keep the sport as clean as it can possibly be. But yeah, the rumors that I've heard, the things that I've heard, I think that it's largely unfair. But I take the stance that I believe in our governing bodies. I believe in the Olympic movement, and I believe that there are more people that are out there that want to play on a safe, level field than those outliers that are not. And I hope that when they're on vacation, they have to pee in a cup.
There you go. Well, last thing, Cullen, you speak to hundreds, and I have for years thousands of youth swimmers. 99.9% of whom will never swim in the Olympics. However, swimming is one of those things that anyone can do. It's a sport of a lifetime. But what do you tell young people today when you see them in a pool, or what's the Cullen Jones philosophy of life?
It's understanding that it's a life skill, like you said. You can be swimming from, I had my son in at 6 months, and it backfired because Scott every day, it's like, we going swimming. I'm like, oh, yes, let's go. To, my mom, who's in the water doing water aerobics, and so I won't tell you her age because I have to actually live and got to make it home. I don't know. I'm not telling her age, but it's so important. I mean, there's no time that swimming isn't important, whether it be you're on vacation or you're rehabbing. The amount of my friends that play in the NFL or NBA that I see them right next to me as I'm swimming laps and they're running up and down because of injuries. So I think swimming is such a universal life skill to have. But what I tell young people is just never give up. You're right. Sadly, 99+% of those swimmers that I work with probably and may never be able to grace, the Olympics or the Olympic podium. But It's not about that. What it is for me is the life lessons that swimming teaches you: perseverance, learning to lose gracefully. We as a society are so stuck on instant gratification. Sport teaches you that's not going to happen. You're going to take this loss. And I think that that's so important. That's why I don't care what my son Avon does. It doesn't have to be swim, but I want him to learn how to lose gracefully. Pick a sport. We will back you in it. Let's do it. But I think that that's something that in the corporate world, wherever you are, in the perseverance of continuing, even though you went through that loss, learning from it, losing is great. Losing is great as long as you continue to go. If you lose and you stop, that's where the word loser comes in.
Right.
You can lose all day. Trust me, I did.
Those
But
6th
I
and 7th place
stopped.
ribbons.
That's 6th or 7th
right.
place.
Yeah.
But don't stop, right? Like I teach some young kids now, and their parents are even hard on them. Like, oh, they're not getting better. And I'm like, how old are they? And they were like, oh, they're 11. And I'm like, okay, my first blue ribbon was when I was 15. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because you don't give up. You just keep pushing. So I think that's the biggest thing. Keep pushing through. And even if you don't make the Olympics, the life lessons that you learn, it's irreplaceable.
That's a terrific way to end it. Cullen, I can't thank you enough for doing this today.
Scott, thank you for having me on, and I get to be amongst the legends.
You joined a very good group here. Thanks again, Cullen Jones. I'm Scott Fowler, and this is Sports Legends of the Carolinas. Thanks so much for listening to Sports Legends of the Carolinas, a production of the Charlotte Observer. This show is produced by Lume Ali Sally, Jeff Seiner, and Cotta Stevens. The sports editor of the Charlotte Observer is Lydia Craver. The executive editor is Raina Cash. If you know a sports fan, we've got a great gift idea for you. We've compiled the first 2 seasons of the Sports Legends interviews into a coffee table book, which includes more than 100 rare photos. Among the 33 legends in the book are Steph Curry, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Steve Spurrier, Jake Delhomme, and Dawn Staley. The first printing sold out quickly, but the book is back in stock now, and you can order a copy at sportslegendsbook.com. For lots more sports content, please visit charlotteobserver.com and consider a digital subscription. You can connect with me, Scott Fowler, by email at sfowler@charlotteobserver.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review the Sports Legends of the Carolinas podcast. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll see you next time.